Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jambo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jadley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast, an iHeartRadio Best Kids and Family Podcast Award nominee. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're delighted that you're joining us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Deborah Mortimer. She's here to celebrate Zorah and the very big question. Before we invite Deborah into the studio, I have a very big question for you. Have you connected with us on social media? If not, please do it today. Facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Jedley Magic on Twitter. Why? Because we would love for you to win one of the many, many books we're giving away this September. It's the Reading With Your Kids giant back-to-school book giveaway. We are going to be giving away at least one book every day during the month of September 2021. All you need to do to enter the contest is to find one of our announcements on social media. Find that back-to-school book giveaway announcement on social media, like it, share it for some extra entries, and you're entered to win. And we are going to be giving away some fantastic books. Hey, you can also enter by going to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the contact button and say, please enter me into the giant back-to-school book giveaway. Joining us right now from the Lehigh Valley and the beautiful state of Pennsylvania. What a beautiful part of the world. Our guest today is the author of Zorah and the Very Big Question. Please welcome to the show, Deborah Mortimer. Deborah, hi. Welcome to the Reading with Your Kids podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
I'm really excited that you're here. Tell us all about Zorah, please.
Oh, well, so much to tell. So Zorah, well, first of all, her name. Zorah is a play on two things. My favorite author in the world, Zora Neale Hurston, and my name, because Deborah is spelled D-E-B-O-R-A-H, and I added the H onto Zora, so, so it's Z-O-R-A-H. And Zorah is me, basically, when I was 6, so I thought it was great to combine the two. In this book, because this will be a series, in this book, Zora's teacher asks her first grade class a really important question. What do you want to be when you grow up? And Zora is kind of perplexed that it seems like everybody in the class knows but her. So she decides that the more important question is not what do I want to be when I grow up, but what can I be? So over the course of a weekend, she kind of like explores the options with her family, looking at the world around her, things she sees on television, people in her family, people that she's met, and finally comes to the conclusion that she can be anything. She doesn't quite know what she wants to be yet, and that's okay, but she knows what she can be, which is anything.
Mm-hmm. That's a really, really important thing for kids to realize.
Yes.
That they can be anything. Tell me, do you think that kids growing up today, no matter what race or ethnicity they are, do you think that they are better equipped to kind of see that they can be anything now than kids maybe when you were growing up, or when almost 100 years ago when I was growing up?
I think they're starting to. I think because the landscape of literature and just what children see as examples is rapidly changing. People are becoming more aware that there are a certain sector of voices that are not being heard. I think that they are beginning to realize that they can become anything and that there isn't a limit to what they can do or what they can dream about doing. Back when I was a kid, it was very limited. There weren't a lot of examples of people of color, people who looked like me doing big and great and important things. So that's why I was thinking with this book that children that might, the whole concept of what can I be, what do I want to be when I grow up might be different for different people. Children of color, it may be more so what can I be, because they don't know what the possibilities are of what they can be, because maybe they don't have these great examples of people in their lives, or people that they see who look like them that are doing big and important things. I know for me, growing up, I wanted to be a doctor. That's probably the first thing I ever said I wanted to be. And that was mainly because my mom's cousin, a black woman, was a doctor. And so I saw this as this great example of something I can possibly do. And so that's something that I strived for as a kid. But with kids now growing up, the possibilities are just endless. Most of these kids now have seen a black president. Mm-hmm. They now see a woman of color as vice presidents. They see all these different examples of doctors and teachers and everything, and all these wonderful people. So I think now these children are growing in a world where they definitely can believe that anything is possible.
Yeah. I think it's important too for the parents that are listening to the show to understand that that's such an important message to give to our kids.
Yeah.
Yes, you can be anything that you dream of. And I know that there's a certain segment of folks and parents who kind of grew up with that. Yes, you want to be a physicist? Absolutely, you can do that. But there are other parents who, I don't know, if they're thinking, I don't want my kid to be disappointed and I want them to be realistic. They might say, well, yeah, physicist is great, but, everybody in our family, we're carpenters and construction workers, and so maybe be more realistic in your expectations. And I think we have our whole life to be realistic. It's great to just imagine and shoot for the stars when we're young.
I totally agree. For me, it was a little bit different. My parents are immigrants, mm-hmm. and they said they believed that you came to this country, or not even that, just their children, that you grow up, you go to school, you get a degree, get an advanced degree if you can. And that was the secret to success. And we weren't really allowed to venture outside of that, or to think about maybe doing a career in writing or something, or acting or anything, just anything. It was very narrow what was expected of us to become, to be successful. I think now people are more open, especially with the recession that we had a few years ago, and there were so many unemployed doctors and lawyers, that people are now more open to the fact that success looks like it has many different pictures to success. There are many different roads that lead to success, and that, it's more about what you're good at. What is your passion? What are things that you like to do? What makes your heart sing? Because I firmly believe that sometimes when you do what you love, first of all, I believe that the money will follow once you do the things that you love. And then I think you will go into it. It builds a whole life, of success and happiness when you do the things that you're passionate about, because you do it with your whole heart. And how can you not be successful when you do things with your whole heart, with passion?
Well, as I'm hearing you say that, and one of the things, I thought you were going to say this, but you said it in a different way. One of the things I'm hearing a lot these days, which I totally agree with, is, if you have a job that you love, you never have to go to work a day in your life.
Yes.
Yes. And that certainly has been the case for me. Once I became a performer and was getting up on stage, and it didn't matter if I had to drive 12 hours through a snowstorm to get to the next gig that I actually had to do a gig in the Lehigh Valley one time.
Okay.
But it was, it didn't matter. I just loved what I was doing. And my kids saw that. My wife saw that. I think one of the things that is happening, it's slow, but it's happening. I'm really happy about that. Is our definition of success as on a societal level is changing.
Yes.
Before it was like, you need to make $1 bazillion, and that's what's going to make you happy, and that's what gives you that stamp of success. And now people are realizing that, well, you get the $1 bazillion, but you don't have the relationship with your kids, and you have the high blood pressure and this and that, and you die early. And so maybe that's not the key to success.
I totally agree. I know for me, I'm trained as a lawyer. That's what I went to school for. And while I like it, and I like the components of it, the logical thinking, the writing, all of that, it's not something that I was very passionate about. I've always been a writer, something that I've always loved to do since I learned how to write. I've been writing. It was an outlet for me. I had a very, very vivid imagination as a child. I was always imagining something. And my mom thought that the best way to harness that imagination was through writing. So I always wrote stories as a kid. It's poems. Just always in the literary magazines, everything. But I was convinced, and maybe society convinced me, maybe my parents, I was convinced that it wasn't something that was tenable as a career, that I just couldn't make a living out of it. I wouldn't be able to take care of myself or my family if I was a writer. And so I kind of put away those notions and went full force with law. But it's never been something that I was completely passionate about. And for years, I was trying to figure out how could I make that switch over into the thing that I loved, and what is it that I love? What else other career could I do? But it always came back to writing. Always. And so it's only within the last maybe, I would say 3 or 4 years, maybe less than that I kind of gave into it. I started a blog. I started writing stories on my blog. And then I decided that, what can I do next? My sister decided she wanted to put together a children's book. She knows I'm a great researcher. So I researched ad nauseum how to do this as a self-publisher. And I realized that it kind of checked all the boxes. It has components it has writing, which I love, education, which I love, children, which I love, who I love, rich and poor I love. And, it has components of law, because there's copyright and all that great stuff. So I now found something that has everything that I really enjoy. And now it does not feel like work. I work probably harder doing this than I did doing law, because that I had to do, but this I want to do. Yeah. And it makes me very, very happy. So I totally get that, what you're saying.
Now, as somebody's listening to this and they hear that you're trained as a lawyer and that you worked for many years as a lawyer, they don't have to worry about picking up Zorah in the very big story and finding that it reads like a legal brief, right?
No, of course not. No, of course not. No, I like I said before, I've been a creative writer. That was first and foremost. I studied creative writing in college along with psychology, but I studied creative writing in college. So no, definitely it's written for children. It's written, in a child's voice, mostly in a child's voice. You get story, but you get a lot of Zorah's thoughts, because I wanted her personality and what she's thinking to come through. Her mom is a lawyer though. And so that's one of the professions that is explored, what it means to be a lawyer. And, Zorah kind of reflects on a situation in which her mom said she was kind of like acting like a lawyer. And so she kind of like explores how that made her feel and decides, well, maybe that's something I could do as well. One of the things that she can do. That's what she does throughout the entire book. She looks at the people around her and situations, and she kind of like looks at situations in her own life where maybe she was acting like this person, like an actor. How was she like an actor? An actor, uses their imagination and plays pretend. Well, she does that with her stuffed animals when she plays exploration. That's kind of like being an actor. And so she does that with everything to decide, well, maybe that's something that I can do, but she never comes to a conclusion, which I think is important.
As I'm hearing you talk about Zorah, taking this weekend to explore all the different things that she could be when she grows up, is there one profession or job that that Zorah explores that you would say is really unique or unusual?
Well, one that probably a lot of parents wouldn't consider for their children is that she explores being a ballerina. Her mom takes her to the ballet, and she sees this beautiful woman leaping across the stage like a bird. And it brings her back to the fact that she loves to dance in her room with her stuffed animals as her audience. And so she says, and her mom tells her that, you could do that too. If you work really hard and practice, you could become a ballerina just like that person, just like the ballerina up there. Mm-hmm. So I don't think that that's necessarily something that parents would say, oh yeah, you could become a ballerina. That's definitely something that you can do. So yeah, I would think that's it. Yeah.
Well, if parents, if you're listening, it is possible because I know a professional ballerina.
Oh, do you really?
Yes, I do. She dances with the Indianapolis Ballet. She is amazing. She's my daughter's best friend. So big shout out to Rowan out there in Indiana. Yeah. I love this idea of talking with our kids about the things they can be. And one of the reasons I think it's so important, and I want to encourage parents to not only use Zorah in the very big question as a great way to jump off into these conversations, but to continue to have these conversations with your kids. So many studies have come out that demonstrate that kids with dreams do so much better. They're happier in life. They're more successful. They're healthier. And when I read that study, I thought, well, every kid has dreams. It's just. But then I thought, well, I'll do a little experiment. And so I did a very unscientific experiment. And for a couple of weeks, I would go around, and every time I'd be in front of an audience, I would say, how many of you guys have a dream that you grew up and you know that you want to do this or that? Just raise your hand. And it didn't matter where I was. Never more than half of the kids raised their hands.
Really?
And that blew me away. And it made me sad, but it reminded me that we need to remind each other and be aware that as parents, we need to reinforce this idea with our kids that they can do great things with their lives. They don't have to settle for whatever job comes their way, that they can go out and they can live with a purpose. And they're not going to have their dream job coming out of college, despite what every college kid is thinking these days.
I know.
You might have to be a lawyer for a few years or social work. Or in my case, I had to be a social worker for about 10 years until I figured it out. Yeah. But it is possible. And and you may have found this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure at some point when you were toiling away as a lawyer, and not like you were working in a sweatshop, but you weren't feeling fulfilled, the idea that there was this thing out there that was going to fulfill you, did that give you hope? Did that give you, I don't like where I am right now, but I know I'm going to be somewhere else down the road, and so that makes this okay?
I don't know if I was sure about that because I think also there's the stigma with age. That you have to, another thing that, back it up. Another thing that I think we're taught is that success looks just like, it's just one thing. When you make a decision of what you want to be when you grow up, it's just that's it. It's act one. You only have one act to your life. And we don't allow ourselves to believe that, our lives is like a play, and we could have several different acts to our lives. We don't have to be one thing forever. And it took me a while to learn that. You get to a certain age and you feel that, oh, well, I'm getting kind of old, so I don't know if I can do that. I'm getting older. I can't, you're asking me to reinvent myself. I can't do that. And that hinders us from doing so many great things. So it took me a while, but I really came to that conclusion, probably when I started my blog, that you can reboot your entire life and start over and do something completely different or along the lines of what you were doing before. So, no, I didn't think that at the time. It took me a minute to get to that point. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you shared that, because I know that there's somebody out there that's listening to this that is going through that right now, that they're in this job, it's not fulfilling for them, and they're thinking, man, I would love to do something else, but I've invested too much time into this, and I've gotten to this point, and it took me a lot to give this all up and to start new again. That just seems so dumb. But
well, you know what I would say to them? Then maybe you don't. I would say, really, I say leap. Like, the name of my publishing company is Leap Forward. Mm-hmm. Leap Forward, I would say, to do that. But for me, I wanted to find something that still had elements of my skill set as a lawyer. So that's why publishing and writing books and everything like that was actually perfect for me, because there are those legal elements to it that kind of like transfers. But another thing I wanted to say about the book, because I also thought of another profession that is not so chef. A chef. Because one of the things about the book is that I wanted to also normalize some of these jobs for women of color, but specifically for women too. So there aren't those traditional gender roles in the book, because her mom, Zorah's mom, is a lawyer. Her dad's a chef. And so some people might not think that that's, you don't necessarily see that. It would be maybe the other way around in some books. But I wanted to normalize it that it's not necessarily, these jobs aren't necessarily gender specific. Anybody can become anything. So if you're a boy and you want to be a chef, okay, that's great too. And if you're a woman and you want to be president of the United States, well, yeah, you can do that as well.
Yeah. And if you're a boy and you want to be a principal dancer in a ballet, you can do that too. You can do that too. And I know a young man who is on his way to do that down in New York City. So yes, that is absolutely possible. I'm real excited. You said that this is going to be a series. What else? What other kind of things is Zorah going to explore in the future?
Well, the next book kind of like it kind of goes a little deeper into her foray into ballet. It's called Zorah, the Brave Ballerina. Because in this book, Zorah, people may have the perception that Zorah is very like loud and boisterous, and maybe she's an extrovert. But in actuality, she's not. She's like that with the people that she knows and situations in which she's familiar, and with her family. But when she is in a new situation with people that she does not know, she is terribly, terribly shy. And so the book explores being kind of fearless and getting over your shyness and your fear to get onto the other side, where you can experience new things and meet new people and all the good things that can possibly come from that.
Wonderful. I'm really excited. I think that these are great messages, and I think that these are great books that can launch some wonderful ongoing conversations with our kids. And parents, we've said it so many times here in the podcast, in addition to the vocabulary and becoming literate, reading with your kids, the time you spend reading with your kids from the time they're on your lap when they're babies all the way through high school, that time, it creates that bond. And that's what in addition to the vocabulary, you're building that bond between you and your kids, which is so very precious. And the conversations that you have about Zorah and what she can be when she grows up, that's the start of those really scary conversations that you need to have with your kids when they're 16 and 17 years old. And it all starts reading books together and talking about them. So I'm so delighted that you have found this new part of your life and you're going for it and you're making a difference in families' lives.
Oh, thank you. I'm very, very happy myself. It's definitely something that I think to myself, and I'm like, why couldn't I discover this like years ago? Why didn't I put the pieces together? The dots were there. It just took a while for me to be able to connect them.
I asked that question myself when I was toiling as a social worker, making no money at all. And, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And then it took me some years to figure out how to make a living as a performer. When I became a dad, there are certain things that happened which made me think back and say, oh, that's why I was supposed to be a social worker for all those years, so I could get those skills that I needed right now. Thank you, Lord. All right. So
I realize that too.
Yeah.
I realize that the logical thinking that I learned in law school helped so much. You wouldn't believe where it actually helped. I homeschooled my son through middle school, and it helped in teaching him math. Believe it or not.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I was like, oh, okay. So I went to law school so I could help my son do math homework.
Hey, that was worth it. Hey, I know everybody's going to want to know where they can go to find out more about Zorah and the Very Big Question and find out more about Deborah Mortimer.
Oh, yes. You can go to my website. It's leapforwardbooks.com. I'm the owner of Leap Forward Publishing, LLC. On my website, you'll find tips for writing and for self-publishing. I've actually started as a self-publishing coach. And I also have a blog on there where you can get recommendations and reviews of books that are focused on diversity and inclusion. Wonderful. So yes, so you could purchase it there. And you could also purchase a signed hardcover copy at leapforwardbooks.com, but it's also available on Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, and other places where books are sold.
Amazon, I paid them enough money over the pandemic.
I
I love that they're there and they're great to bring me the dog treats for my dog, but if there's indie bookshops that you can go in and specifically request Nora in the Very Big Question, or by going to leapforwardbooks.com, let's do that.
Okay, well then I'll go a little step further. Then
Okay.
You can go to bookshop.org, where you can purchase my book there, where a portion of the sale goes to support independent bookstores to keep them open. You can do that.
That sounds like a great idea. Well, we've had a wonderful time speaking with the author of Zorah in the Very Big Question and the founder and driving force behind Leap Forward Books, Deborah Mortimer. Deborah, I've had such a great time speaking to you tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Thank you so much.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Noelle Martin. She'll be here to celebrate superfoods for super kids. We would love it if you could visit our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. You can find out what's coming up on the show, find out what you might have missed, download all sorts of great goodies. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, I want to start by thanking our guest, Deborah Mortimer. Please be sure to check out Zorah in the Very Big Question. I also want to thank my team, Alejandra Doherty, Fatima Khan. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.